What's up, guys, and welcome back to Paint Bravely, the podcast where you can find a little bit of encouragement, discover new ways to make your hobby more fun, and most importantly, learn to paint bravely. Of course, we hope so every week. We don't always talk about painting, but, we want to get there eventually. So this week, we're going to start off with a little bit of the things that we've been doing, and then we're going to get into some pretty fun topics, I think. I don't know, Brent, are they fun?
We'll make them fun. We'll do our best.
We'll make them fun. Okay. So why don't we start off with you? What have you been doing since the last time we talked? Because it's been a little bit now. I guess it's about normal.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Sometimes it's more like 1 week. Sometimes it's 3 weeks. But this time it's been 2 weeks. So
yeah,
I'm going to start off light. We're going to start off not painting. I saw Avengers Endgame finally. It's been out for more than a year now, but I forgot to cancel my Disney Plus account, and here we are. So really the only point I wanted to make here is I understand it. I'm still not like a comic book guy. I still don't really have a favorite superhero, but I understand it. I can appreciate and acknowledge the quality of that film and the accomplishment of all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's really all I needed to say. I know in the past I've been a little bit harsh on the superhero theme, but I want you to know that I get it. It's not necessarily for me, but I get it. I understand it. I appreciate it. And we
brought this up in an older podcast at this point about there are just some things that as a person you should just know about, right? Like if you're in the nerd culture like we are, you should probably know what happens in Avengers Endgame because that conversation is probably going to come up at some point or another.
Right. Now, after seeing it, it wasn't one of those experiences where like a lot of memes and stuff clicked into place for me. Certainly not as much as like the first one. The first one, I think there were more memes, but yeah, sometimes you watch a movie and you're just all of a sudden like, oh, I get it. I get
That's
it.
what they're talking about.
Or like if you see Game of Thrones for the first time and you're suddenly like, oh, I see. Khaleesi. I see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm caught up on that for a little while,
Until the next 10 years that you skip out on and wait till the end. That's fine though.
Hey, I'm doing my part. I still got that Disney Plus open. I keep forgetting to cancel that. So you know what? Maybe I'll watch a few of the others. I actually did watch Guardians of the Galaxy. That was pretty good. Like I get the appeal there, So maybe I'll keep on educating myself, and that'll be good. But enough about MCU. What has been new with you, Casey?
A lot of painting actually. So I had this idea after I did a video a couple weeks ago that I wanted to paint a whole bunch more models, right? Because I only really get to paint one model every week, and it's specifically for a video. But I had this idea that if I use a concept, so like concept armies, you know what I'm talking about? Like stone or lava or, ghosts.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We're on the same page.
So we're talking about like kind of a simplified paint schemes for...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so something that you can do a lot of that still looks pretty cool and, kick it out real quick. So I've been wanting to paint more models, and I just had this idea after painting a pretty easy to paint model. It was nice, that I'm going to buy an entire army on eBay and then paint it all in like a couple days or a day or, within the week of time that I have. So right now I'm collecting a whole bunch of Stormcast models, and I'm kind of making a plan. But I've been doing some testing. I made a video about kind of the idea behind that and where that's going to go. So I'm pretty excited about that. But I have been painting quite a bit this week, and that makes me happy.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that video yet, but are you going stone? You doing ghosts? What kind of Stormcast are these going to be?
Stone cast.
Yeah. So like marble
I do
or
make the kind of I guess I don't know, river rock maybe, like
Okay.
pretty straightforward, like fantasy stone with moss on it, that kind of thing. So a lot of gray.
Okay. So the
grays.
idea is you don't have to be painting different colors for the cloth and for the armor, and
Yeah.
on those models
Everything
it's
is
pretty much cloth and
essentially
armor.
the
But,
same thing. Yeah, that's pretty much all they have. Yeah, and it's nice. Like if you've never seen Stonecast Army, I'll throw up a picture right now just because the video should be out. Yeah, it'll be out literally the day before this goes out. So yeah, it's timely. It's nice. So the idea is like you paint your model like gray, and then you dry brush a bunch of lighter and lighter grays on top of that to get this kind of like stone look, like you would if it was rocks on a base or something. And then I'm putting moss on it, little bits of lichen and whatever you can get at a hobby shop. And I'm doing some nice like OSL magic effects, which is really what brings it all together. And it's a fun way to paint a lot of models really quickly.
nice. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it done. The OSL with the airbrush, or
Oh yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah. So it's like almost all dry brushing, and then I can kind of come in right at the end and, assembly line, airbrush everything. I haven't quite started on the actual army yet. I'm still waiting for a lot of it to come in the mail. But the idea is that I'm buying everything for pretty cheap, right? And I've been selling a lot of models, after videos have been done. And I'm going to put the whole army back up on eBay. And I'm going to start it like at the same price that I paid for everything. So it should be pretty inexpensive technically. I mean, who knows how high it'll get bid-wise, but, good opportunity for someone to get a 2,000 point Stormcast army.
So that's your goal. Did you start with the wish list of what you wanted in the army, or were you just putting anything in there to get 2,000 points, or what's the overall plan like there?
At first it was kind of like, what could I get for the cheapest? Which used to be whatever came in the starter box, but it's been a few years since that first box came out. So, I'm looking at some of the newer starter boxes, or like Soul Wars or something that had a bunch of things in it. So like the bulk army stuff. Now I am including something, Star Drake, one of the big dragons. I found one of those for a killer deal. So that's going to be in the army, but I did build an army list and it has some synergy to it. So if you legitimately wanted to play it, like it would actually work all right.
How many ballistas?
So no ballistas, but let me think here.
All right, folks listening at home, if you want to play this army, you're going to need 5 more ballistas, but it's a simple paint job, and Casey will show you how to do it. So
100%. Well, and I'm building it so that if you did want to do that, because I'm not including the ballistas. I am doing like 20 judicators and like another 15 castigors. So it's almost fully ranged. And then it's all the sequiturs or whatever the cool ones are that people like. I found a couple of good auctions for those. Usually they go for quite a bit too. So I got a little bit lucky, and there's going to be a bunch of those.
Nice. So were you getting
pretty cool.
The deals where you were finding, were those kind of like unit by unit deals, or because sometimes you'll find somebody just selling, like their army or their collection off, and sometimes you can get an okay deal on those too. But
I did bid on a couple of full armies, or what they were calling a full army.
Right.
I didn't end up getting those, so I did have to go unit by unit. But I mean, like say a unit of judicators, right, with the longbows. Normally those go for, the box brand new is like $55 for 5 of them, I think. So I was getting like 10 for 35. So it was a pretty good deal.
Well, you've got your skills. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Right.
You know what you're doing.
It's mostly just like people ask me that all the time. Like, how do you always find this stuff? And it's like, I look every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
It's your job. Yeah.
That's all you have to do. And people are like, but I don't understand. I look all the time. Like, do you look every day? Well, no. Well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch my videos, you'll see that just in the background there's often just piles of 3rd edition Dark Eldar warriors and stuff. And yeah, I had a phase where I was trying to put together an army from eBay deals for old Dark Eldar, and I kept finding the army deals, and it would always have like half of the stuff was actually stuff I was interested in, like, oh, get some more jet bikes, get a Talos, you know. And then the other half is just broken warriors, which just go into the pile. So
the pile.
For me, trying to make an army off of eBay, I was getting those bigger deals, and like I was actually getting the stuff I needed, plus a pile of broken Dark Eldar warriors, which are the test models now. But yeah, you've got your system down.
I still have a use. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
It should be interesting. This is, I think the first time that I've been able to, I don't know why, but think about a project that I could actually accomplish that is kind of a big project. So yeah, that's not normal for me.
Yeah, rescuing a whole army, that sounds like a good video. I'm ready. I'm ready. Oh,
awesome. Have you been doing anything else? Because I know,
other than watching movies,
right? Things have been opening back up. Have you been going outside? You got bit by a dog again?
Slightly. So just before we started recording, I was telling you, Casey, that I went to my local hobby store for the first time in, obviously months. So in case anyone is listening to this way after the fact, we're recording in late June of 2020 here, and much of this country is still in lockdown, or should be in lockdown. And, things are kind of phased opening. And, my local hobby stop had phases where it was doing like drive-by pickup, or it had been doing a lot of shipping of products. But now they're at a phase where they're not running any games or anything, but you can go into the store part of the shop as long as you have a face mask, and they're limiting it to 5 customers at a time. But they are I was able to go to my game store and walk around and buy some models for the first time in a long time. So good to get out of the house,
Yeah, it's got to feel pretty good. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been able to do something like that. But yeah, getting back into the game store, like just going through even stuff that you probably don't even need, just looking at everything, like it's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah. And again, it's a situation where I want them to continue to be around in the eventuality that we do get to play games in public again someday. I want that game store to be there. So there were, a couple of boxes of just models that I just thought looked cool. There was some Blackstone Fortress. One of the expansions to Blackstone Fortress just has a bunch of like cool Trader Guard models in it, and is surprisingly not that expensive compared to a lot of other GW products. But it's like a $40 box. It has 15 or 16 models or something in it, and including a bunch of cool Trader Guard stuff. And I got a Blood Bowl team, the Halflings.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And recently on Goobertown Hobbies, I've had like a pile of shame video, and it's clear that I do not need any more models, but I do need my local game store to keep being there. And at some point I'll paint me some Halflings, and we'll all be happy about that. So.
I've never played Blood Bowl in person. I've heard it's good.
Yeah. Many years ago now, like late high school, one of my friends was really into it and really trying to get me into it, and he could not get anyone else to be into it. So I did buy, I think 2 metal teams at the time. I had, I think Amazons and I think the human team. And we played a few games, but wasn't really into it at the time. But now thinking about it, I love the idea of actual squares for moving around, so you're not arguing around with like a measuring tape or anything. Hopefully they haven't changed that aspect of the game. I don't know, but
I'm pretty sure it's still the same. They did a video game for Blood Bowl, like a newer one. And it's gridded. It's supposed to be the same thing. That's what I've played. I played a lot of that, but never in person.
Okay. Yeah, the models themselves are great. There's I think some of the teams have like repeats, like 2 of every figure or something like that. But they're great models. So great models, and they're not ridiculously expensive. So yeah, I might give it a shot sometime. Anyway,
that's pretty
cool little halflings, and what else? I got some gloss Agrax Earthshade. Nothing too fancy. And
gloss Agrax.
Yeah, I was going for gloss Nuln Oil, but they were out of gloss Nuln Oil, so
right, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll find a use for gloss Agrax. We'll see. But and then coming home from my local independent game store, there actually is a Warhammer store on the way home from that, and so I stopped in at the Warhammer store, and it was actually really interesting to see how they were set up for the partial reopening phase here. They had been just flat out closed for a month or more. I don't know exactly how long, but they're open now. But what they've done is just inside the door, they've put like a U of tables. Like they have 3 long tables set up so that you can't really enter the store. You just kind of standing, you're like blocked off. There's like a barricade there sort of. So you can step inside into the air conditioning, but you can't like go and paw through all their stuff. There's just, some tables blocking it off there. And you kind of walk in there and the guy says, "What do you need? What can I get for you?" And then I didn't know what to say, but
gloss. No.
I what I eventually came up with was Slaves to Darkness, Chaos War Shrine. No, we don't have that. Well, okay, see you later. Like,
just a deep cut. They're like, well, yeah, there's no way we carry that.
Right. Well, this guy was actually saying they haven't quite got their shipments squared away yet.
Oh, okay.
So he was saying like this Games Workshop store, their Warhammer store, didn't have like Prophecy of the Wolf, like didn't have one of the big battle box releases from like a month ago. And he was saying like he hadn't gotten any shipments since like the shutdown began because like somebody higher up had made a few mistakes along the way, but they were hoping to get fresh products in eventually. But
that's a bummer. I mean, especially when his job's writing on that. Like, if they don't have the product, how does that reflect? I mean, maybe they're just glossing over a lot of it right now because all the stores have been closed, but like that seems kind of crap for him.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like he had gotten. I don't know if they were, paying him during the shutdown or not, but it kind of sounded like, okay, you're done with your furlough now, come on back to work, and you're not allowed to let people into the store, and also we're not giving you the fresh new releases. So,
right,
you like my local, friendly local game store had the new Lumineth Realm Lords box, like they had the Prophecy of the Wolf box, and they had the new releases from Games Workshop, but the actual Warhammer store didn't. So
it sounds like a clerical error or something.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there's tons of this stuff going around because this is strange times. But anyway, good to see that both of those stores are still there in some capacity. Hopefully, eventually it'll be safe to play games again, but we'll see.
Hopefully.
Until then, we're just going to keep doing podcasts from the comfort of our own home, and that's the way we live.
Yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah. Now,
I've
I've also been painting a little bit, but the main thing I want to talk about is I've upgraded my hobby desk yet again, and it's getting pretty nice. So this hobby desk is now like a convergence of all my hobbies in one. So it's a painting desk. It's a desk set up for painting, but now it also has T-slot aluminum, making a big framework over it to hang all the lights on. And also hanging off of this framework is another big, beautiful power strip. A 10 slot power strip with enough room to put any plug you want in there. And, 5 of the things plugged into that are those big, beefy plugs that would not fit onto a regular power strip. So, man, that thing's lit up. It's all cable managed. And I recently made one more addition, which was mounted a couple of monitors to the T-slot aluminum, to the framework there. And so I've got a monitor for watching Netflix or whatever. I've got a monitor for making sure that my camera is in focus when I'm painting, and it's all coming together, Casey. For my
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. For that Netflix computer, I, had taken an old computer and, kind of rebuilt it into a smaller case so that it fits real nice there at the desk, and man, things are looking up.
Yeah. It sounds like you're doing quarantine in the best way.
Thank you. Thank you, Casey.
Everything is around my desk. You don't have to go anywhere.
Barely
When's
have
the
to
mini
leave.
fridge coming in?
Mini fridge?
Yeah.
That
It's obviously the next best choice.
Well, I'm looking, and there actually is a pretty good spot for that. Like when I condensed down the big old computer into a nice small little case, it opened up really just about enough room for a mini fridge. So, good idea. We're gonna work on that. Yeah.
There you
Get a few pee bottles, next to me there at the desk, and we'll be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all we're missing, the pee bottles at this point. So.
For that, you cut a hole in like your wall and you just put a piece of PVC right through it. That's fine.
Okay, let me write that down.
So let's say we get to, I suppose, our main topic of the episode. Which I guess, I don't know, how would you word this a little more specifically?
So we had a viewer write in an email with a bunch of topic ideas, and a lot of them are actually pretty good. Some of them were already on our list of possible episodes, and some of them were new and interesting. So we're going to go with one of these for today. And the question is basically, when do you do a color scheme other than the box art? Why do you do that? How do you go about doing that? And so the main topic of the day is color schemes that are not box art.
Right, that fits very well into my my concept army thing. It's almost like we planned it, but we didn't at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big, beautiful topic that we can go anywhere with. But so start off with why would you want to use box art, and then why would you not want to use box art? Casey, go.
All right. So I think that a lot of the times especially when you get into painting, you go to the model shop, right? And you look at the art and you think that looks really cool. And I want to have that model. So in your head, you're thinking, I want this model to look like the box art because that's why you bought it, right? Like generally speaking. So I think a lot of the times, because there is kind of a roadmap right in front of you already, it's easy to say, okay, well, I can see that armor is gold and that shield is blue. So it's kind of a nice thing. And then obviously Games Workshop has their YouTube channel and the community section that they pretty much stick to their own box art for. Like occasionally they do dip into some other things, but for the most part, they stick to their box art and show you essentially how to paint that. So I think, for a lot of people, it's just kind of the first step. Now, you start breaking out of that a little bit when, say you read a book, like some Black Library novels, and you hear a cool story about this warband, with an inquisitor, whatever that is, and then you make up some crazy story about that, or, you want to follow that. So you come up with a paint scheme that matches that idea. It's almost, I guess, more about creativity at that point. You want to tell your own stories with these models, not the story that Games Workshop is necessarily telling you. So, I mean, I like painting the box art personally. Like that's my go-to. But then obviously, talking about the concept armies and that kind of thing, I do like to jump way off the scale of box art. And I think most of the stuff that I do on a regular basis is probably just, let's make it up as we go along, see what happens. And I like that. It's a fun thing to do. Do you prefer one or the other?
I prefer to make up my own scheme, and we'll have to figure out why that is exactly. But as for box art, there is something nice about knowing what you need to do or having at least a little bit of a path out there for you. And of course, there's a lot of different techniques that you could try to use to make that box art. But, if you're painting ultramarines, you know that you need some blue paint, you need some gold paint, and you know where to put both of those types of paint. And there's a lot of the thinking. Some of the thinking is done for you, which can be kind of nice. So you don't have to stress out over, okay, do I put gold here or here or here? Or what about here? Or would it look weird if I also made the helmet gold? Or, because once you go off the box art, you have to you're making a ton of decisions, and some of those decisions just will lead to a worse looking model, while some will lead to a better looking model. Yeah. And the box art, one nice thing about the box art is it looks good. Like, professionals have made a paint scheme that looks good. They might kind of be lying to you about how easy it is to duplicate that paint scheme, but the models on the box look good. And I guess for me, part of why I often don't do the box scheme is a fear of my models looking like everyone else's, or more realistically, looking like a worse version of the box art. Like, almost like, okay, I have slightly failed to reproduce the box art. Like, these are my models. They look like the box, but not as good. And so for me, I try to, make the models mine. So, part of it is like ownership of like, these are my models and I came up with this paint scheme and the way they look the way I want to look. And also because I am picking different colors sometimes, that the uniqueness of the look of my models, it makes somebody go like, oh, I hadn't thought about that before. That's cool. And so it adds some value that way, because it is probably a new paint scheme that not too many people have used before. So
yeah, and I think that, like, because in general, when we paint something, it's probably we're recording it. I do find that going off of or not following the box art rather does add more value to that. Like, somehow, because you can try different things, you can use different products that aren't even necessarily Games Workshop products, and get crazy different results with that, and people learn from that, and they generally say something. Like, I do like those comments that are like, wow, like, I've never thought about that before. Like, I got one the other day that was, I gloss varnished a model and used a black wash on it, and it's like, I never thought to even do that,
Yeah. I think there is definitely, since we're making videos, there's definitely an advantage to showing people alternatives to the box art. And so, a lot of, some people making videos will do very similar to the box art. Like, at least when he was at Games Workshop, of course, Duncan's videos were all pretty much how to do the box art for these models. And it's good to see that, but it's also nice to see alternatives. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what do you, like, if you're going to come up with your own color scheme, do you like Google images and look for something specific? Do you look up like color combinations, or do you just like scroll Instagram until you find something that just pops out at you?
Scrolling Instagram is a good one. And so I think that's a really good way to do it if you're looking for inspiration. Looking for inspiration in almost any aspect of the hobby, get yourself, follow some people you like and keep growing that list and scroll. Yeah. Type in a search term for a certain model and keep going until you find the colors that give you an idea. And not that you're even necessarily looking for something to duplicate it exactly, but just, whoa, you can do that in teal. That's a really interesting idea. Mm-hmm. Recently, I painted some Imperial Guard, and I have a memory from way back when of seeing some image online of this brilliant blue scheme for Imperial Guard troopers. And I've looked, I cannot find that image again. But that's an idea that's like lodged in my head now of someday I'm going to paint some blue Imperial Guard. And so just by and I've forgotten which places were blue. I've forgotten what, all the secondary colors were, but I've got this nugget of an idea, this nugget of inspiration that's in my head now, and someday. Another one I've had the Corvus Cabal warband on my desk for like a year now. And these are the Chaos bird soldiers. They've got like crow heads and crow skulls and feathers all over them. And the box art from GW is black and gray and like a really deep blue. And it's made to look, all the feathers look like crow or raven feathers. Mm-hmm. And they look good. So part of the reason I haven't painted them yet is because I don't know what to paint them. I know that I really haven't yet enjoyed painting a black model. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of in my mind. It's like, okay, I don't, in this case, I don't want to paint the box art because I actually don't like the box art. Mm-hmm. And normally the box art is pretty good. Like, yeah, that's a good one, but I want to do something different just to be different. But this is one where I want to do something to be different, but also,
Right.
Yeah, goth bird, like, Chaos Warriors.
Yeah.
Not this time.
Yeah. No, I've definitely been there. Like, just looking at it, and you're not inspired by that, but you have this product and you need to figure something out to do with that. Yeah, that can be tough. And black, especially as a color, is a tough color to paint. I mean, I've experimented quite a bit with it, and it's one of those things where, okay, well, you can add, say a little bit of purple into the shadows, and that kind of makes your black look a little bit different. But if you go a little too far, now it doesn't read as black, and there's so many problems with black. Like, even just in highlighting it, it's just going to look gray. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you come up with for that, because I don't think I've seen too many variations on that specific warband.
Yeah, so I've seen a few now that I'm interested in. And it's taken a while. Like, I scrolled all through Instagram, I've watched videos, I've watched Twitch streams, and there's a couple ideas that I have now. And again, it's just like, okay, these, like, this color or this couple of colors in combination look good together. There's a way to put them on these models that looks good. Let me go and experiment. But to get more into the question you asked, for me personally, if I'm coming up with a paint scheme, for better or worse, the way that I've normally done it is... All right, that was Gordon. Gordon just knocked the microphone. He wants to be here and hang out.
Good job, Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. So the way I normally do it is just trial and error. Like, I'll take that pile of Dark Elf Warriors and I'll just, take out my paint palette and put a bunch of different colors on. And I go through more test models than a lot of folks do. If I'm going to be painting a squad, I'll make sure that I have like a couple extra models to experiment with. Right. To see if this green looks good on it or that blue or whatever. And that's actually something I've been doing in the last couple of days. I've got 6 models that I'm painting, and they're metal sculpts, and I have 3 duplicates of 3 of the sculpts. And so I've got 9 models on my desk. 3 of them I'm just painting and repainting and trying stuff with. And then the other 6, like, once I'm happy with some of the colors, I'm slowly painting up the other 6. But those first 3 are absolutely like leading the way. I just keep changing the hair color and changing, the cloth color and all this other stuff. But
that brings up another interesting point that I almost forgot because we were going to do an update on. So you use those models as test models, and you were able to warm up a little bit before you really got into the other stuff. Have you been using any of those test models as like a warm-up practice, like, you know, something before you really get into painting? Is that kind of the usage that you're using them for? And has it helped?
Sort of, but not exactly. So a couple episodes ago, we were talking about this idea of warming up when you're painting. Like, you know, if you're doing any physical activity, you do your stretches first. If, you know, you take a few swings of the baseball bat before you step up to the plate, you know, but apparently real artists do this for themselves also. They'll draw a doodle before they start doing the thing they actually want to draw. Or so we got this question about whether we do that with painting, whether we take a few practice strokes with our brush on some test model or whatever. And during that episode, Casey and I were both like, that's actually a pretty great idea. We should absolutely do that. Oh, yeah, we're going to do that. We also predicted that we would forget to do it. And so I guess what are you checking up on me here, Casey?
I'm just checking in because I'm curious because, and only because I have been doing that.
Oh, well, I have not, but I'm starting to see how it could fit in. Like the idea of having a test model on your desk, and then every time you come back, especially if you're like trying to figure out a color scheme, like every time you sit at your desk, you just change one of the colors on there, you know, like you slept on it, you're coming back to it. Yeah, that loincloth definitely needs to be blue, you know?
Right.
So I'm thinking about that as the way to do it. Have a color scheme that you're working on, have some test models on your desk as both the like trying to make progress on coming up with a color scheme, but also just putting a little bit of paint on a model before you get started on the night's main activity. So yeah. I don't know. It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
But what have you been doing? What have you been doing? Tell us.
Well, okay. I got the mini right here. I'm throwing it up on my camera. You can't really see it, Brent. Like I was doing some, like I was saying, the OSL for the Stormcast. And I didn't bust out the airbrush on this guy, but I did some stuff with a paintbrush, and, you know, just testing out some blues to whites. And then, I got a new oil wash. I got that Tester's, little pen dippy thing. You know what I'm talking about, that little square pot. But I just got one of those, so I've been testing different things, color combinations, and, you know, how it reacts to the oil wash and that kind of thing, you know, before I then do that on the actual model. So it has been helpful in that regard, and not too bad. I'm still not sure if it's warming me up or just giving me a little bit more confidence with the thing that I'm trying to do. But I thought that fit into, like, you know, what you were saying of having those extra models and stuff.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how much like warm up you actually need. I mean, the muscles should be doing pretty much what they need to do. Maybe your eyes get a little bit more focused in or something, but a lot of it is just, you know, just kind of calming down or being in the right, you know, mindset to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we're both sort of following up on that. This is good. This is good.
It's good.
Yeah, I know. I know that John from Trapped Under Plastic, he was saying that he was going to put paint on his brush every day. And that was going to be his goal, is to just dip a paintbrush and paint every day. We haven't heard much on that for a while, have we?
No, maybe. I suppose we should just call him out for that and ask him.
No, we're like passively calling him out on that right now. But see, I don't think I would ever make that challenge for myself, because I know it would not happen. But
right. I mean, it's a really cool like thought that if you sat down at your desk and even if you had 5 minutes, if you just put paint on your brush, like that paint has to go somewhere. Like it's got to go on a model. Like grab a model. If you have that test model, then sure, like you could do a quick little thing on that.
You know, that actually sounds great. Like Developing a good paint scheme, I think, sometimes takes a couple of iterations, especially if you're doing it by trial and error, or trying things, like thinking about it for a few days, seeing it in the evening light, seeing it in the sunlight, and then you're like, no, that shoulder pad is going to be brown. And then you try that, and you come back to it the next day, decide to dip your paintbrush and paint on that day. Orange, we're going orange,
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, just go nuts with it and see what happens.
Yeah. So I will say that, like, developing your own paint schemes can be a serious challenge. Like, when you find one you like, it is awesome, especially if you are, using that on a whole team or whole army or something. If you find a paint scheme that you really like, it's rewarding because you did it, it's yours. And it is, if you show it off to people, it might get some extra attention. But if you don't show it off to people, then you like it for yourself. So,
yeah, I mean, rolling up to a hobby shop or even just putting a picture up on Instagram, like when it's not the box art and when you feel good about it, it's definitely, like, it gets more attention. People ask how you did whatever you did. And it's nice because, yeah, you know that your army doesn't look like anyone else's. And that's pretty cool. Like when pretty much all the models are the same, unless you do conversions, paint is your voice with that army.
Yeah.
So, yeah, coming up with your own paint scheme is a pretty rewarding thing, I think, most of the time.
Right. So I was setting that up but sometimes it can be really hard. Like, sometimes finding a paint scheme that works, or at least that works for you, that you like, sometimes that can be a long road. And, why do you think I have so many unpainted Dark Eldar? Like, if I knew which color I was going to paint them, those would be done by, in theory, would be done by now.
You have one in literally every color of the rainbow. Like, you have to. There aren't any more colors, Brent. You have to pick one.
But there are combinations, and there are my Rainbow Dark Eldar. That was in my phase where I was really liking washes over white. Like, that was the painting phase I was going through then. Their spandex in between their armor was black. Everything else was white, and then I had my secret weapon washes that I mixed up with a little bit of floor wax to do my washes over white.
The old classic.
Yeah, classic. And some of the colors looked pretty good, and I had almost decided on the orange, but then, like, I got a little bit better at painting, and I got an airbrush, and I started second guessing myself, and look, someday, but maybe I should just put a couple of Dark Eldar on my painting desk, and every time I sit down, just make a few little tweaks there, give it some thought. And at least then they're on your desk and you're looking at them a little bit more frequently, even if that's not your main project of the day. But
I think that, the last thing you said, like having them on your desk, it's the top of the mind kind of thing. It's the reason you're supposed to, put sticky notes on things, or like, well, I want to do this, because you're constantly being reminded. So, you might think about a color scheme, and it is difficult sometimes to come up with a really cool one, because obviously a lot of good painters out there come up with some pretty cool stuff all the time. So, having that right in front of you every time you sit down, even if you walk away from your desk 5 minutes later, like you're probably going to have, sunk a little more time, little mental thought into maybe what you would want to do. So eventually, yeah, you'd probably start to come up with some solutions there.
Yeah. And once you find it, it is pretty magical. So I will say that the yellowy, orangey, browny slaves to darkness army that I made a little while back, or it was like 600 points of an army that I made a little while back, I am still really liking that paint scheme, which is very interesting to me, because that means that I can like actually get the motivation to paint the rest of a 2,000 point army one of these days.
Yeah.
And having a paint scheme that's yours, that you remain happy with after after the fact that you continue to like, that is a rare and awesome thing. And on those models, there are some tweaks I want to do. Like I didn't totally like the cape color, and I didn't totally like, actually I really didn't like the bases that I used for those, but like that scheme is really close for me, like actually saying, okay, I'm going to sit down and finish painting a 2,000 point army, and then my friends Mark and Alex are going to stop yelling at me for not painting an army when we play games. But
like he only brought 600 points again.
Again? Like this has got to stop.
That particular army though, that paint scheme is like, I am very partial to that particular look. That undercoating with pink, going over it with the whites, and then filtering everything with the yellow. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that not look fantastic. Like, because once you nail that and you get those shifts in color, like it's just such a cool, like yellow is, maybe because it's yellow, right? Because yellow is a difficult color. Like to see an entire army painted like that, or like the ones that you have, the 600 points, it is impressive to see.
Well, thank you, but also like, yeah, it's cool, huh? Yeah, I do it's like cool. That. I'm down with that. Anyway, one of the things about the box art is you know what to do, and you're not stuck up on trying to figure out a paint scheme. And so for me, who doesn't want to do the box art for the Chaos Undivided, but I do want to make my own scheme, like being at a point where I actually know what color to make them, that is a huge step. And it can be a really hard step to make. So before we move on here, Casey, as a child, did people ask you, what's your favorite color?
Yeah, I mean, I still get that question.
Yeah. Like, I think about this from time to time. It's such an interesting question of like when you meet a child and you're trying to make conversation with some little kid, what's your name? How old are you? And then like, I guess you could ask them like pretty much after that, it normally defaults to like, what's your favorite color?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. 'Cause what are the things that, I mean, because I guess when you ask a kid that, they're usually like 4 or 5 years old or something.
Right.
Yeah. That just makes me think the next time that I have a get together with friends, because everybody's got like little kids, I'm just going to start asking for their social security numbers. just to see what happens. Just bring it up a little.
Right. But that always just seemed like such a weird question to me, because you get kids who in some ways don't even really give the question that much thought, but they have their like standard answer that they give to that question. So for me, it was green. And, someone asks 4-year-old Brent what his favorite color is, green. And then like a few years later, I was like, I kind of also like orange though. Maybe green's not actually my favorite color. Like, and then like I answered orange a few times, and then people are like, didn't you say green before? And anyway, it's just
yeah, somehow that locks you in, right? Like you've made your decision, 3-year-old Brent. It's too bad.
Yeah, and like, and even now, 30 something, it's like, okay, what color should I paint these? What colors do I like? And at my age now, it's more of like, okay, let's try something I haven't done before, or try something that's obviously different from the box art, or try something that's a different color from the rest of my models or the rest of my armies. Mm-hmm. But why aren't I just going with green and or orange for everything? I don't know. Like, do adults really have favorite colors in that way? Like that yellowy orange, like that really draws me. Is it because orange is my favorite color? Have I been wrong all this time?
I mean, like on that kind of a level, I think that's actually why I like that, is because of that nice shift to orange. Like that was always my go-to answer, was orange.
Really? Okay.
And I remember at a very young age thinking, no one else ever says orange. I'm going to be that kid. I remember it like vividly having that conversation with myself that is my decision for that question. Like, and I mean, I do like orange. It's nice.
Well, yeah, I would love to see the stats on this of what children's answers to this question actually are. Like, I imagine there might be a little like peaks at like blue for boys and pink for girls or something like that. I could imagine that, but then I could also imagine, you know, the kids like you who want to have their own favorite color, you know, can't be blue. Like it's gotta be something else. Like maybe that's why I was green. I don't know.
You know what? This just dawned on me too. So the first Ninja Turtles came out in 89? I mean, I imagine you probably watched that.
Yes, I saw many episodes of the cartoon Ninja Turtles. Yep.
Didn't see the movie though?
I have seen a couple of the movies, yes.
Okay.
I've seen one of the like Rubber Suits movies, and I've seen I can't even remember, it was some sort of animation for like there's one like 10 years ago maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Sure. It doesn't matter. I almost think it was like a Michael Bay like Ninja Turtles movie. Don't worry about it.
Don't watch it. Yeah.
Is this going in the what was your favorite Ninja Turtle question?
I have a feeling that might have played into my decision as a small child. That I really liked the orange Ninja Turtle. And I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. But I don't know why it just occurred to me. I just thought that was a very interesting thing because a lot of kids, I remember after that live action movie came out, you know, everybody was talking Ninja Turtles. I had Ninja Turtles lunchbox and, you know, pencil holder and whatever. And a lot of people, or at least, you know, friends that I had at the time, that's what we talked about. Was what Ninja Turtle are you?
Well, my answer is Donatello.
Yeah.
You were Michelangelo?
I think.
Okay. The thing is, as a child, actually, 1 year for Halloween, I was Leonardo. Like, Mother Dearest put together a little turtle outfit for me, and I got the blue headband, and I got there were like dollar store swords. Maybe it was just because I could find dollar store swords. I'm not really sure. Like,
see, that's a whole other level of something because I was Raphael for Halloween. And I don't remember specifically why.
But Michelangelo was your favorite, yeah.
At least the color was. I like Donatello because the stick.
Stick was so stupid. Stick was so stupid.
But he was smart enough.
But he was the smart one. I think there was a little bit of like being the smart character that I probably latched onto in some way, But yeah, it's a really interesting question about like which of the four, just straight question of which of the four color combinations look the best. Like, don't let them hold anything in their hands. Don't let them speak. Just you get a lineup of 4 Ninja Turtles and make people tell you which one looks the coolest, which green and mask color looks the best.
Right. That's
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the artists, picked the right, shade and hue of those masks to make it work as well as possible with green and as well as possible with each other too.
A Christmas tree. So
yeah.
It's very interesting. Maybe we've gone a little deep on this end.
Well, yeah, we're talking about redesigning Ninja Turtles at this point.
Right. So, in order to pick colors and maybe be more effective, can you do something, say, on the computer?
So we're done with Ninja Turtles? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, I feel like
we're done with Ninja Turtles. All right.
We squashed that subject pretty hard.
All right, I concur. Let's go.
Yeah. So, okay.
Try your transition again here, Casey.
It's killing me with this. I'm reading this and like we just spent like 15 minutes on favorite colors, you know?
Well, okay, to tie back in, like favorite color, it's an interesting idea. Like if favorite colors are a real thing, you'd expect more people to have, you know, more of their models in their nominal favorite color, you know? Like
that is true. Yeah.
Like if my favorite color is actually green, I should have painted an army of salamanders by now, of Salamander Space Marine chapter by now. Like it shouldn't be that hard of a decision for me to pick which Space Marine chapter I'm going to paint. Like if you actually have a favorite color, like they have a chapter in your color, except for orange, but don't worry about that.
Right. Sons of bitches.
All right. Moving away from favorite colors here. Let's assume that you are actually willing to consider any color of the rainbow for models you're painting.
Right. What do you do in order to pick that? So like if you've been to art school or anything like that, like one of the first things you get is a color wheel. You know, if you buy something from certain online retailers, they send you a color wheel for free with your paints, which I think is pretty cool. And that is a helpful tool because you can see where the colors lie and, you know, kind of pick out different triads or opposites or whatever it is to come up with color schemes. And something that we've talked about is going online and using, what is it, Adobe?
That's the one I've used.
Just Adobe.com? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have a color picker, right? And I've never used it. Can you draw on there?
So I've used it. It's, you go on, or at least just search for adobe.com and color wheel and you should be able to find it. But it's just an interactive color wheel where you can go and, you know, select different areas of the color wheel. And then, you know, whether you want to be doing like a triad of colors or complementary colors or monotone or, you know, whatever type of color scheme you're thinking about, it'll then suggest some other colors that'll go with that. And so I think normally it'll have like a palette of 5 colors and you can go around and like say, okay, well, one of the 5 to be this, and one of 5 to be this. And it'll kind of suggest, okay, what other colors might fill in that palette nicely. And even if you're picking all 5 of the colors yourself manually, it's nice to be able to see like just like 5 color swatches next to each other and just think about like, okay, is this the palette? Does this palette look good? Do I think this is something I want to use on my next model? And you know, in the past, I've done a little bit of experimenting with trying to use like computer-assisted paint scheme design of like taking a 2D picture of a model and then kind of trying to color it in on the computer screen. And then, you know, you can change colors way faster on the computer screen than you can change by painting them onto the model. If you're going to go through if you're going to go through the trial and error, might as well be on the computer.
Yeah, you can, I mean, because you can do as many different variations as you want. And having something like a shifting color wheel will tell you if those colors technically go together well, or, you know, in theory, they do. And I mean, that doesn't always pan out when you're painting models, but I think it's a pretty good place to jump off of. I have a color wheel up on my wall, and I consult it pretty often. You know, it's got all the basic colors and then, you know, hues from black to white. So you kind of get an idea of some of the things that look pretty good together. A lot of it, though, I feel is kind of trial and error. You know, you think, okay, red and, you know, I guess the good example is red and green, right? Like, technically, theoretically, those look good together. But red and green tells you something else if it's, you know, bright enough and light enough.
Yeah, Santa Claus is coming to town. Yeah.
Yeah. So are red and green good colors for an army. Well, they can be.
Not anymore.
But yeah, they can be in very specific circumstances. So that's what I mean by like trial and error. You can use red and green and not make it look like Christmas, but it is hard.
Yeah, it needs to be a really dark red or a really dark green or something else needs to be mixed in there a little bit. Yeah. It's tricky. Yeah. It's tricky. Plus you got watermelons like ruining the rest of that approach, so
it's a lot of black there. And then they got the white kind of see that, and that's where that is like there's a little bit of separation that pulls you away from that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen a couple of techniques for this, trying to plan out a model paint scheme on a computer. And one of the worst videos I ever made on Goobertown Hobbies was using the program of PowerPoint to color in an image of a model. I've seen people use Photoshop to try to do the same thing. Actually, from the date we're recording, just a few days ago, the Craftsman put up a video using Photoshop to do that.
Like a 20-year-old version of Photoshop.
Yeah.
If you don't know the Craftsman, you need to do yourself a favor and go check it out. Steady Crafted.
Yep. Okay, so also Dana Howell had a video where she used MS Paint to do this, taking an image of a model, and then I think she was just literally drawing over it whatever color she wanted to try. And so that's one way to do it. And partially this just depends on what program you're familiar with. But actually, I'll say I think the best version of this that I've seen so far is a small channel, Allie Macalister. So ALLIEMACA1LISTER, I think.
I'll throw that link.
Yeah,
down
you
in the
just do that. That'll be way easier. Plus, I probably found a way to get it wrong, but
no, I think you got it.
Nice. So this is a small channel, and Allie is primarily like a computer artist person, whatever the word is for that.
Digital arts.
Sure. Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Casey. And she also paints minis, and of course, it's interesting to see the way our various hobbies help each other out and play off of each other. But, she's done this where she takes essentially a black and white image of a model that has a decent contrast to it, so you can really see the high points and the shadows and everything. And then she lays these translucent layers of color down on top of the image. And so, you can see the blue pants, but you also see all the folds in the pants and everything. And so it looks really good. Just coloring over the pants makes it look really good because you can see, still see the texture of it and stuff. And
the shift in values and all that.
Yeah, exactly. The shifting values. And that's one of those techniques, when I saw it, I was like, okay, if there was a model that I really cared about, 5th edition Drukhari warriors that I really need to finally figure out how to paint,
Yeah.
Because, of course, it is an extra step to go and take a nice picture of your model or find one online, and then to go and load it into your computer. And if you don't already know how to use one of these programs, figure out how to use the program and play around with colors on there. But once you do get over that kind of startup cost, very easy to change colors, to play around with things. You can go to an interactive color wheel and just pull the colors from that, get some outside help to try to give you ideas for what you should do. So that is a technique that definitely appeals to me. I'm certainly interested in.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely an interesting way to go. I've never personally tried it. I've been using Photoshop for a long time. But I've never tried it for miniature painting before, which is a little weird. I don't know. I think the way that I am, just on a personal level, is more of like, I just want to get down to it. And if I screw it up, then like I know the steps to take to fix it. Like it so much as throwing it in a bath of cleaner and stripping the paint off if I absolutely have to. Like,
right.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of extra work is what I mean.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, you're into mini painting because what you want to be doing is painting minis. If you wanted to make digital art, you'd be making digital art instead. Like I see that argument for sure. And
I do see the value in it.
Yeah. And on my test models, you can certainly layer on a couple of different colors of paint before you start to fill in details. But by the time you're getting to like especially the fourth or fifth coat, you're starting to fill in the tiny little gaps. And it's getting closer and closer to the time where you might need to strip the paint off the model. So on that topic, I'll say that, feel free to experiment. You can always strip the model back and start fresh. If you are in America, we've got our LA's totally awesome cleaner. We've got our super clean purple degreaser stuff. Both of those will work great on plastic minis.
Yeah.
Take most types of paint right off after, a couple hours sitting in a bath. Even quicker if you got an ultrasonic cleaner going on them.
Oh, yeah.
So, part of what we've been talking about of just sitting down and painting things, that is backed up by the fact that we know that we can always recover a mini. Nothing is lost if we do put 8 coats of paint on there and still don't have an answer. But, if we put 9 coats of paint on there and we know our answer, we can strip all those layers of paint right back off with, at most like an overnight soak in one of these fluids. Yeah. And then start fresh in the morning with a fresh coat of primer, and then what colors of paint you actually want to be on that mini. So nothing is lost by trial and error except for time, really.
That's true, the time. But I mean, it's pretty minimal, and especially if you have a sonic cleaner. I was going to say the alternative to this is to go on eBay and buy like 200 of these Kabylie Warriors and just hoard them. That way, you never have to strip a mini. You just have them. You just reach behind you and paint it however you want to paint it and see what happens.
Are you being sarcastic?
Expensive. No.
Yeah, if you do end up with a whole bunch of something, it's okay. It's all right. Yeah. Nothing wrong with having a janky old test models laying around. You might find some use for them.
Well, and eventually, you'll have a ridiculously very original army if you can put all those on the table.
That's true.
I would love to see how many of those you have done and just like laid out. I want to see that Dark Eldar army.
I've actually stripped a lot of them, but I have gone through a lot of 3rd edition Dark Eldar Kabylie Warriors. A lot of them. Yeah. And some of them have gone through at least one stripping. Many of them have at least been like primed over again. But I have in the past had them all out on the table, and it doesn't look cool. It does not look cool. You don't want to see it.
I didn't think it would.
No.
I just wanted to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that we can obviously get color schemes. I don't know that I have any particular preference. I think pulling a little bit from each thing kind of makes the most sense. And you're going to find eventually what you're most comfortable with, whether it is trial and error, stripping models back, test models, like that color wheel from Adobe might be absolutely your thing. Like if you have access to that kind of stuff, if you even have Photoshop, that might be something that just clicks with you. I think there's no reason not to try all of them at least once.
Yeah. I will say that finding your main color sometimes is the hardest step. Sometimes the hardest step is just deciding that the main color is going to be red, And That's one reason why it can be nice to adapt an existing color scheme. That's one reason I actually like my little Goobertown roulette game, because it makes a couple of the hard choices for me. You know, either it tells me 1 or 2 colors that you will be using on this model, and that helps a lot. So, I mean, you could do something where if you just have all your paints in a Tupperware bin or something, just close your eyes, blindly reach in and grab out a random paint and see if you can make a paint scheme around brain matter beige or whatever you pulled out with your hand and give it a shot.
That sounds like a fun thing to do. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, for me, just the hardest part about trying to pick a paint scheme is when you end up paralyzed with too much choice.
That might be really what it comes down to anyways, is that as miniature painters, we generally have access to a very large variety of colors. And I think, like, emotionally, mentally, we're afraid of picking the wrong color.
Sure.
Like screwing up our paint job, our army, whatever it is. I suppose this is where Paint Bravely does come into play. Like, don't worry about what other people think about your color scheme. If you like legitimately fluorescent pink, do it.
You won't find that on box art.
Exactly. But that sounds rad. And if you
no one else would
work,
dare.
Yes.
Yeah. Listeners, we have a challenge for you here at Paint Bravely. Go out, buy yourself some fluorescent pink paint, and prove Casey wrong.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying it would look bad. Or do you mean it would?
I don't know.
Which side are you on?
I'm actually not sure how this experiment will turn out. So if anyone does paint anything with fluorescent pink, we'd be interested in seeing it. That's for sure.
The last thing I painted with fluorescent pink was my most liked image on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that Seraphon skiing star priest.
Oh, you used actual fluorescent pink on that?
Legitimate, yeah, from Golden. Really good fluorescent paints. High flow acrylic from Golden.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks awesome too.
Casey is saying you can make almost any color work. It's just a matter of how dedicated you are to figure out what the other colors will be on that model.
That's actually an interesting thing. So when I was picking colors for that model, I wanted a lot of orange, actually, which is weird. And you look at a color wheel and you say, okay, what's the opposite of orange? It's blue. At least I think it is.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I'm
don't bother checking. Just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was right. I got this. And then I kind of, in fact, this is a perfect example. If you are watching this on youtube.com/Paint Bravely, the podcast, then you can see what I'm pointing at the screen. This is just a color wheel. You can pull it up on Google or whatever. So orange and blue are opposite. And then right at the very top of the color wheel, in between those two colors, is pink. So I went real bright and fluorescent with it. No, you can't see that, Brent.
You don't need to show me where pink is on the color wheel. It's okay.
You looked very confused. I was just trying to help. But yeah, it's right in between. So that's a good example of where I did look at a color wheel and I decided, here's where I want to start. Here's the opposite of that color. And to throw in a triad, I picked pink, and I had a fluorescent pink, and it works. It just did. You still look very confused, Brent.
Yeah, you lost me at pink is directly between orange and blue, but I guess I'll have to look at a color wheel. That's all right.
I was trying to show you the color wheel.
I know you were, buddy. I know you were.
You didn't want it.
I apologize. I've been told not to apologize for my cats, but I'm apologizing to you now for. I don't even know what I'm apologizing for now, but
yeah, it's fine.
All right, we got to move this really along, fine. Casey. So in summary, keep a folder of pictures that inspire you, because you never know 100%. When you'll want to draw on that and make up a little paint scheme.
Yeah. For that specifically, like if I'm on Instagram or if I'm on Google or whatever, Facebook a lot of times too. If you're in Facebook groups, I will screenshot an image of whatever it is, and it goes right into a folder. And I've even got my folders broken down into, specific projects that I'm thinking about, so that I have a little bit of inspiration each time that I go into those folders. A lot of it does come from Instagram, and scrolling is a really good way to do that. But saving those pictures is very helpful, and I recommend it highly.
Right there with you on that one. Yeah.
Nailed it.
All right, done and done. Hey, Casey, we want to wrap up here with kind of going through some questions a bit faster. We have some other questions folks have asked on YouTube.
Yeah. So the first one, I'm just going to go straight into it, is from BL. And it is, how do you mentally prepare yourself to overtake challenges you encounter while painting?
I think this might be like an overall stress level question. Like, just if you're getting in the mood, if you're sitting at your painting desk, you're there to have fun. Like, I don't know, don't stress out over anything. You'll get through it. You'll figure out a solution that will work. You'll figure it out eventually. It might not be using the exact technique that you thought you were going to use, or, maybe you were hoping to use non-metallic metal that day, and you end up at the end of the day taking the shortcut and just putting down some Vallejo metal color or something.
I've been there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is a really hard question. I saw this on the list of questions. I was hoping you would have to take a stab at it first here, Casey. But well,
I asked you first.
Okay, you did ask me first. Okay. So let me start over here again. So back to what we said earlier, you can always paint over something. If it really goes south, you can always strip it off. So let's start with the baseline. There is nothing you can do to really fail. It may take you a long time to get to where you want to be, but you can never truly fail. You can always, at absolute worst, you can always start over again. So on like a baseline, how do you approach the task? There should not be a fear of failure. You should be able to paint bravely because, absolute worst, you put another coat of paint on. And then with that in mind, I think it's a little bit easier to just go for it. Either whether you're trying to, repeat a tutorial you saw online, or if you're just winging it and trying to, repeat a look of a model that you found online, or if you just have a crazy idea in your head, give it a shot, see what happens. I think that's in terms of mentally prepare yourself to do something new or to tackle a new challenge.
I mean, it's kind of like doing a puzzle, right?
Okay.
Like you know that there is going to be a challenge, and it's every time that you want to do a puzzle. I find that miniature painting is not too dissimilar in that everything that you're doing is a small challenge that you need to overcome. You need to find a solution. Like mentally preparing yourself for that is, I mean, it's like you're going in, or at least I think you have to go in knowing that those things exist. And like what you said is that failure doesn't actually really exist in miniature painting. It's more of an emotional thing that we deal with when we feel like we've messed something up beyond our ability to repair. Paint can always be painted over. It can always be removed. Like nothing is ever permanent in miniature painting. Yeah. Ever.
The worst is like a feeling of frustration and being quite done with this for the evening, Like you can,
So
there is failure in the point of like you had something good and then you accidentally like got black all over it. Like there's that's about the worst thing you can do. Or you got an effect almost right and then you try to finish it off and you went back about 5 steps like that. Sure, that can happen and that comes with frustration, but ours is a slow and long-term hobby a lot of times. So and I think actually I like the analogy of putting together a jigsaw puzzle there, like, because you are constantly making a little bit of progress. There is in a jigsaw, there's one solution, but in painting a mini, I am not enough of a perfectionist that I think there's only one correct way. Even if I have an idea of what I'm going for, I don't think that there's only one correct look. Like, if some little detail really is bothering you, paint it black or paint it gunmetal silver, you know.
Right.
There's on this stuff, there often is like a shortcut if you give a particular technique or effect or a good solid shot, and at the end, if it really isn't working for you, you have the option of trying again and again and again, or you have the option of putting Nuln Oil on it and calling it a day. So
that kind of segues a little bit into the next question, if you want to read that real quick.
All right. Is there a painting technique for disguising the flaws in a less than perfect sculpt? All right. Most painting advice is, rightly, about bringing attention to the nice details. What if you'd prefer to hide something?
Yeah, and this comes from SS.
Yes, this comes from SS. All right, good. That was a very good question, though. Seriously, I like that one. What do you think, Casey?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think this is an interesting one because I think there are some specific things that you can do in order to hide things. Like you just mentioned Nuln Oil. Like Nuln Oil for most painters, and I mean, even for me, like this is all the time, will hide like color transitions, mistakes. Like if, an arm goes into, say, a piece of metal, like skin to metal or something, like you're going to have a nice black line there. So even if your painting wasn't perfectly crisp on that line, it's now hidden. So washes hide a lot of details, and they make your models look a little bit more purposeful, I suppose. If there's something that you want to do to fix a sculpt, that's a little bit different, because a wash isn't going to hide, a busted up model.
Yeah, if there's a big gap, or if there's like a mold line across the whole bicep or something, like that's the wash is going to draw attention to that a little bit worse.
Yeah. I'm thinking more like say you have a piece that's broken off, or maybe a sculpt is a little bit janky. Like I think a lot of people would think, well, now you have to go in there with a little teeny tiny little brush. You got to paint those details in. Well, for me, if there's something, say if I'm rescuing a model and it's slightly beyond repair, or at least my ability to repair that model, then I will pick something that makes it make sense. So say like a sword is broken in half and I can't find it, the other piece, or there's a gouge out of a piece of armor or something. Mm-hmm. Somebody cut right into it. Or one of the bigger offenders is when somebody uses way too much plastic glue.
Sure.
Right? Like the idea is that now that model is essentially ruined. You can't really do anything about that without having to re-sculpt it. So say there's a chunk out of some piece that looks like a piece of metal. Well, maybe paint it like rust. Like go over it with some texture. Make it look jacked up because it is jacked up.
Yeah.
Like you're hiding those mistakes and making it look like it's more on purpose.
Yeah. So stepping way back, you could do just a little bit of conversion or glue an extra bit on somewhere or something like that to try to rescue a bad sculpt. But I really like that idea, Casey, of, if there's like texture in a weird place, that could easily be rust or some other type of wear and tear on something. If it's on skin, that could be a nasty scab or, some other injury or something like that. And so, I'd say one of the things you can do is think about whether the imperfection could be part of the model or be painted up like part of the model. And then if it really can't be part of the model, paint it black. Or if you have a model that has some flaws, priming black and then painting the things on top of that you really want to paint, that's actually a pretty good look. Dark colors hide imperfections pretty well. You won't be able to see as many of the flaws if they're primed black. You know, if you prime a model black and then do a paint job on it, but you don't hit every area, that's going to look way better than a model that you prime white and paint over it and don't hit every area. Like just the default of something that you didn't paint or don't want to draw attention to, just having a black base coat, way better than a light color. And I've done this before on some models, not necessarily even to hide something, but just where I don't even care enough to decide what some of the details are. If I'm thinking of like some Delac gangers I did, where they have a bunch of techno gizmos, and they've got their grenades, and they've got some belts, and they've just got all kinds of like weird little details on them. You don't want to think about what color all those things are. Make them all dark gray. Sure, they're dark gray leather or dark gray metal, or it's just like a crack that didn't get painted, and so there's a shadow there. Dark gray, sure, good. And then to go along with the almost camouflaging it, the weathering effect can go a long way. So whether that's you're stippling on little chunks of rust or little chunks of exposed shiny metal as a result of scratches and chipping, that's cool. If you want to just get some pigment powder and put that all over everything, they have dusty boots and dusty legs, and they're just covered in dust. That's cool. Actually, one of the armies that I really liked at a tournament I went to was a Tau army, and it looked awesome. And then I realized it was just basically like spray painted blue Tau that had weathering dust all over everything. And it looked awesome. It was like, blue Tau, and then like reddish brown earth weathering dust, more at the bottom, but all over everything, like just models stepping out of a sandstorm or something. So
nice.
Put dirt, put soot, put dust, whatever it is. Weathering pigments can absolutely be used to hide all kinds of things. Whether that's a bad model or a lazy paint job or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the powders specifically I really like for that. It hides so much, and it makes imperfections look very purposeful. Because it has that realistic texture to it. It looks powdery. So everything underneath that looks like it's just real. It's supposed to be there. So it definitely is. I like that. It's a good way to go. Let's say we do one more.
Okay.
I'm looking at G down here.
I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one. Yeah, so we've got our list of questions that people have asked over the past days or sometimes weeks or sometimes months, and we will get to all these because we got a lot of good ones. And let's go with G.
Just save your questions.
All right, go with G.
Just letting you know. All right. G says, just wondering how much you think having a painted army enhances the gaming experience, if at all.
I think it's pretty important. So in terms of me gaming, if we're talking about Warhammer here, for me, a lot of the game is just the spectacle of it, of getting two armies laid out, maybe some cool terrain in between them. For me, that's a big part of the experience of what a Warhammer game is. And so I think that having both armies painted is awesome. Of course, the usual caveat is I am normally the person with like the least painted
Probably
army,
some
or like the
underpainted
most
thing.
cobbled together, various like half painted units. Normally everything on my side is pretty much mostly painted, but it might have been painted by me 20 years ago, or might have been like painted by somebody on eBay or something. So my army, like my full army, normally looks okay. But I do like playing against someone who has a painted army. Partially, it's easier to see what everything is, and partially just the feel and the atmosphere of the game is improved. And then the caveat over all of that is, I am not a big competitive gamer. The actual tactics and rules of the game do not appeal to me in the way they do for other people. Every time there's a new rule release, I'm not like, I basically don't care. I'm just like, okay, someone fill me in if this affects whether or not I'm rolling, these D6, Let me know if something drastic changed, but
you're not allowed to use any of those units anymore.
Yeah. But if you're someone who really likes the, getting the synergies from the various leaders, being within 6 inches of something, and you're re-rolling ones and you're getting your +1s to something or other. If that's the stuff that you like, the, planning out your army in that way and taking advantage of the ways the rules are written to have a really effective army and to have a cool strategy, then probably painting is less important to you. But I'll say, for me, my answer is painted armies make the game really cool. Yeah,
I think I'm pretty much right there with you. I think having a painted army, seeing someone else's painted army, first of all, it's a great conversation. You can ask somebody all sorts of questions, and most people are very happy to share, why they made the decisions they did with their army and why they painted whatever colors, and like as a a painter, like that's what I'm into. Right? Like I like the game, and I try and put a little bit of thought into that when I build an army, when I try and paint an army to play. But at the same time, like I'm not gonna throw down a plastic model just to see, if I can get a couple more dice rolls that game or whatever it is. Like, just, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. You're at least going to paint it up to look like a rock, right? Like,
at least.
Yeah.
In the very least. If it looks like a rock, then cool. Yeah. I don't know. I just like painting armies like that.
Yeah.
I paint. Yeah.
Yeah, when I've brought like truly unpainted models to the table is because I needed them for the list to be legal, not because I really needed the benefit or wanted to try a new unit, but it's because if I don't bring this unpainted thing, the list will be illegal.
Right, it doesn't even work, and there's really no point.
I don't even have a painted leader for this army, so here's an unpainted leader. So.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think that's probably a good exception to I'd say a rule that I generally would try and adhere to.
Yeah, and I've certainly heard the answer that, if you do want to just try out something to see how it tactically works in your existing army, like, go ahead and bring it unpainted before you spend 10 hours working on it or whatever. I totally get that. The amount of time that goes into painting an army is ridiculous, especially if you need to come up with you feel you need to come up with your own paint scheme, especially then.
Yeah.
But the amount of time it takes to get set up for a Warhammer game is already so excessive that if you have the opportunity to play unpainted before you get them all painted, go for it. Yeah. We're not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't do that, but ultimately, in a perfect world, I think a couple of coats of paint really does add a lot to the game. So.
Yeah, I mean, even if you primed it through a top-down zenithal highlight of some white over the top of that, like, I mean, I would, if somebody came and was like, hey, I got these units, I want to play that they're unpainted, like, yeah, whatever. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I think it's just a more enjoyable experience overall when everything is painted. It's like having a lot of really nice terrain on a table, right? Like, it's not just a giant lime green mat. This is the battlefield. Good luck. Like, that's pretty boring.
The battlefield has a ping pong net down the middle. Yeah.
For real. Yeah, exactly. It's some weird obstacle. Yeah. Like, having the extra stuff, like it's way more immersive, and it's just enjoyable.
Right there with you.
And on that note, thank you again for joining us on another episode of Paint Bravely. If you enjoyed this podcast, please help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and sharing this message with your hobby friends.
Hold up a second, Casey.
As always,
you stop right there.
What?
I need to say that Casey and I keep forgetting to plug our own podcast on our YouTube channels. So
that's a very good point.
We're going to think about maybe doing that a little bit more often, but yeah. If all you guys want to help out the podcast, yeah, tell your friends. But Casey and I will also try to do our part a little more often. You know,
it's a good point. I mean, it's hard enough to ask everyone else to do it for us. Like, we're barely even talking about it on our own platform.
Every time Casey and I talk to each other, we're like, you know what? I made like a couple of videos over the past few weeks that did not mention Paint Bravely once. Like,
didn't mention it.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that.
Seems kind of stupid.
Yeah. Hey, live and learn. We're getting there, you know? We're on episode 9. Next episode is going to be episode 10. We're going places, Casey. We're going places.
Straight to episode
and we are happy that all of you are along for the ride.
Yes, we 100% appreciate each and every one of you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time.